Clovis and Las Cruces are my two hometowns. I have aunts and uncles and cousins, and my sister came down from Clovis, and I wanted to see my aunt and uncle, especially because they're approaching 90, frail, and my Uncle George was the man who taught me how to paint. He was the very important person in my life, and it was my desire to combine painting with computers that led me to computer graphics. So this is really important, this relationship with Uncle George. I think most people know that color can be represented by a red component, a blue component, and a green component, by three primary colors. Ed Catmull and I added a fourth component to each color called alpha, and that's the transparency of a pixel, whether you can see through it or not. And if you can see through it, how much can you see it? Is it 50% of, you know, does it 50% transparent or 90% transparent or 0% opaque? So with this fourth channel, you could vary the opacity of a pixel, and that allowed us to combine one image over another where the back image could show through partially. Oh yeah, 3D paint. In virtual reality, you can 3D paint. You go into a 3D space with the virtual reality glasses, and you hold a wand in your hand. You have some buttons to control, and you can paint in 3D space. You can paint over your own body, for example, and then walk away from the painting, and it's your outline of yourself. Or you can paint over your hand, and there's your hand represented just with paint strokes. But it's obviously a hand, and then you can move around it or move it. So that's a completely unexplored space. Yes, in fact, I'm a little worried about it, or almost frightened about it. Let me explain that. I am now into grandparenthood and fully in love with grandchildren. It sounds trite, but it's just absolutely one of the most wonderful things in the world, as grandparents have always said it was. He's 6 years old now. When he was 2, he was a crazy 2-year-old. He was banging off the walls. Everybody knows 2-year-olds are nuts. They're nutcases. So one day I decided, he was visiting my home, and I decided to introduce him to the Pixar oeuvre. So I brought him in the front of the big television screen. I slipped in Finding Nemo, and this 2-year-old stared at the screen and didn't budge for an hour and a half. And he didn't blink once. And all of a sudden I realized, my God, we're directly programming the brains of 2-year-old human beings. That's a scary responsibility. I'm really glad I didn't perceive that before we did it, right? But I think we've done all right. I get praise all the time from parents, but a lot of that is because we're the best babysitter ever invented, and I realize that. But I think we're doing okay with the responsibility. Pixar, favorite project. Of course, I love the pieces that they do, but just seeing that thing through all the hell we had to go through, and the financing and learning. I had to learn how to be a businessman. I'm not a businessman, but I had to learn how to do it because that's what was required to get us there. And then finally it all happened, and you look back at it and say, oh, holy cow, that's wonderful. I'm such a proud papa. I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book called A Biography of the Pixel. I've been working on it for 7 years. On chapter 7, so the rate is 1 chapter a year. Another chapter to go probably. It's a lay guide to how the modern media world works. And the original motivation was to discover that nobody that I talked to knows what a pixel is, which I found horrifying. That's like not knowing about gravity. Computer graphics in general, I'm sick and tired of robots and transformers and explosions, and Yeah, let's get that out of our system. You know, you can do that with computer graphics, but let's get back to good stories. You know, I grew up in Clovis, small town. I came to school here. It's not one of the you know, the renowned universities of the world. And I didn't know that. I thought it was people in other places that could get, you know, get famous and make money and be successful. It was always people somewhere else. It wasn't us. And it is us. And I named some names of here of my friends who come from here. Jim Clark's another guy. He grew up in Plainview, Texas. Did Netscape. You can do it. This is where people come from that do those things. I hope that's the message I got through.